All right. Thank you to another episode of Through the Woods, and I am Kyle Woods. Appreciate you guys joining me. Today, I have a special guest, and if anybody knows anything about the Wine Commission or has heard about the Wine Commission, you will know who this person is across from me because all you got to do is do a search, and she shows up everywhere. She's done so many interviews. She's been a great face for the organization. So, with further ado, Moya Dolsby sitting across from me. Thank you for
Yeah.
joining.
Well, thanks for having me. And yeah, I probably do show up in Google search for the good and the bad, right? I'm like, oh gosh, what did I say now, right?
Oh no, it's been all good. I mean, that's the funny part. Just kind of getting ready for this video cast. I was just searching out there. I'm like, holy cow, she's like everywhere. I'm like, I don't even know what questions I should ask anymore because you've answered so many of them. So, but we're gonna kind of get into some things maybe a little bit different that you haven't talked about as much. So I'm kind of excited about that. Before we get going, though, I want to give a shout out to some of your people that work with you because I get to work with them as well, and that's Brenna and Ashley. So,
Yeah, we have a great team. So Brenna's been here 10 years this year. Ashley just hit her six, and I'm going on my 14th year. And I mean, the longevity, right? And we have great interns and good admins that kind of come and go, and also the board. I mean, we couldn't do it without her. They let us do our jobs, but we like each other.
oh, that's big. And that helps longevity, right? Because you like where you're at and you like the people you work
We're
with. That's
happy
yeah,
and having
that's
flexibility. I mean,
yeah.
flexibility is key too, especially when you have a family and life. And
And I think so many people today, that's what they're trying to find. They're struggling to find that, yeah, where can I work at? Where can I fit in? And can I enjoy it as well?
right, I don't want to do anything that's not fun. Like I understand like work is not always fun, but I want to have more fun days. And then I was telling that like on all these different boards I sit on, I'm like, I want to have more fun or I'm not doing it. So yesterday it was kind of funny. I'm on the botanical garden committee, and I'm like, do something fun for us every meeting. And they gave us all little chocolates, like those little like caramel covered chocolate. I'm like, it could be simple and stupid like that, but it was nice. I liked it.
It is nice. Well, and no better industry for you to be in to have some fun, right? So let's, for people that have never met Moya or even know anything about Moya, this is going to be your opportunity to do so. So Moya, let's just start, just who are you, where you came from,
Yeah.
and how you got to Idaho. And then we'll get into the Wine Commission after that, but let's just kind of get a little bit of history background
Yeah.
from
So
you.
people ask me all the time, like, how did you get started in the wine industry? Like, how do I do this? And I think everyone's road is a little bit different. So in college, I thought I wanted to be an attorney. So I worked at the U.S. Attorney's Office for 3 years. And then I decided I didn't want to be an attorney. And this was at the end of my junior year. And I kind of freaked out a little bit. Like, what am I going to do? Because I'm a planner, right? And my dad said, why don't you go see if the Washington Wine Commission needs an intern? And I just thought that was so like random. Like I didn't really drink. I drink a little bit, but like wasn't a big drinker. Like my family didn't, like they drank wine growing up, but not like, it wasn't an everyday thing. And ironically, I grew up in Woodinville, Monroe area, which has a ton of wineries now, and the biggest winery in Washington. And my dad, like, he works now for a winery in Washington. So I think maybe that was his thing. Like he wanted me to do this. And so I went and I thought about it for 2 days and I couldn't come up with something else. And then I went to I didn't even interview like at the Washington Wine Commission. They just like, you want to start working here? And so I worked for free. And then I ended up going to school full time and working full time my senior year. And for $22,000 a year, I was like, I feel like I had more money then than I do now because of my children. But I mean, I was just excited and I was willing to do anything and everything. And I think that that's what trained me and got me to where I am. I mean, from carrying boxes to emptying spit buckets to answering the phone, like whatever they needed, I did it. And so I worked there for 4.5, 5 years and then got recruited to come to Idaho as their executive director. And I'm like, they're not going to hire me, but I just like, whatever. And I didn't even negotiate my salary. I just came. And I just thought I'd be here for a couple years and go back to Washington or go to California. And I have been like recruited since then, but I don't want to leave. Like I'm still having fun, right? So I got married and I had 2 little kids and built a couple houses. And my husband says we're never leaving. And so now I I travel a lot and we have fun. But who am I? I'm a wine drinker. I'm very active in the community and sit on probably too many boards, but I have fun with that. I'm a mom to 2 8-year-old boys, and we have 4 dogs. My life's chaotic, but we have a lot of fun.
Yeah. Well, there was 2 things that caught me when you were saying One was is that I mean you kind of worked in all aspects of it, right? Which is there is no better way to do that. And then the second thing when you said $22,000, uh, I just remember the day. So I started my first job was $24,000. I don't ever remember the idea of ever negotiating pay. It was just like just give me a
Yeah,
job.
yeah,
I just
I
want
was
to go to
grateful,
work. Yeah,
right?
that's kind of a
Well,
little different.
and I think the thing is now, like with the wine commission, every day is different, and it's so we're a state agency, right? But we work for the wineries and growers. So we're tasked with marketing and promoting all Idaho wineries and growers. And what does that mean? It means every day is different, from legislation to planning events to attending a million different meetings to doing media missions. And that's what I like about it. And I think working for the Washington Wine Commission trained me on how to do it. And you're always learning, right? Like I'm finding the job now, it's a lot more political than I thought it was going to be. And that's okay. It's just like you learn and you mold. And I'm just so grateful for my experience, right? And
Well,
the
that's
team.
a perfect lead in because I really want people to know that because I don't know if people, and I mean, even I had to research a little bit more is what is different being a commission as opposed to being a nonprofit or a private industry. We're the Idaho Wine Commission. So I think people don't maybe understand that or could see that differently than what you could explain.
And I think there's pros and cons to everything, right? So I'm a state employee, which can be great sometimes because I have amazing benefits. We're a self-governing state agency, which means we manage our own budget, but we still we have a lot of rules, right? What we can and can't do. Like we can't lobby, but we can educate the legislators. We have to do an audit every year, right? We can't. I mean, so there's just more rules that you have to follow. So we can't run legislation unless the governor's office approves us and says yes, you can, which has hindered things at times, right? But I think currently there's more benefits. I don't know. It depends on who you ask, right? Like there's
Right.
more benefits. It's hard for us to raise money at times because we're funded by the wine excise tax, which is all wineries pay,
Perfect. I was going to ask you
right?
that.
So
Yep.
it's hard to, and we have optional industry assessments. So if you as a winery or grower, you could pay them if you want. Most people do because they want to see the industry grow. Um, yeah, it's just going to be challenging at times,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
When I sit on these, like I said, these different boards, you can apply for these grants because they're nonprofits, right? And I'm like, gosh, that would be nice, but do you change the system? It'd be really hard to change the system because it's been going for so long. Not to
Yeah.
say that it can't be done, but yeah.
Well, let's go back then and let's just start with how Idaho wines. What's the history of Idaho wines?
So Idaho wine started in the 1860s, actually, in the Lewiston area, and they were winning awards around the country, like entering the wines in the World Fair, right? And it was really cool. And then Prohibition happened, and it killed the Idaho wine industry. It really did. And unlike other states where it was still kind of going underground, but it wasn't until the 1970s that things really started to get going, but slowly. That's with St. Chapelle, and then Bittner opened up planting grapes. And so, I mean, in the 2002 is when it really started to get going more. I came here in 2008, and there's 32 wineries, and now there's over 70. And not that I say that it doesn't really have anything to do with me. I mean, yes and no. I just helped organize, right? And I'm good at getting people excited and giving you confidence that, yes, you could do this, right? So we have 1,300 acres planted in the ground. And I've been saying 1,300 for probably like 6 or 7 years. And that's not very many grapes, considering in Washington there's 65,000 acres planted. We do need more grapes in the ground, but what's hindering us is land preservation, so houses, encouraging people to plant, and it's expensive, right? But the wineries that keep coming. And what I think is going to happen, I think we're going to see some big wineries and growers come to Idaho, and they're going to buy big plots of land because if we're looking and seeing what's happening in California, sadly, it's getting too hot. It's not working, and so you're seeing all these other big growers and big wineries looking to diversify. And we just happen to be in the right area for the great climate in order to do this. And when I say great climate, what does that mean, right? Hot days and cool nights. And typically in Idaho, it gets cold gradually in the winter, and that's what you want. And typically it warms up in the spring gradually. And you need a certain number of heat degree growing days for a grape to ripen, just like your tomatoes, anything. And so we're kind of in the sweet spot, right? That it's going well. Just need to plant more.
Well, and I don't want to jump past some of this history because I think it's
Yeah,
pretty darn
yeah, go
important
for
that
it.
people know about it. Because you had the pioneers that were helping make this winery movement happen.
The
And like,
vision.
yeah, and like you said, in 2002, 11 wineries. And then I do love this. In 2008, you came on the scene, and you and your board have done amazing things. And I mean, just listen to this. In 2010, 43 wineries, 1,200 acres. 2013, 50 wineries, same amount of acres. And then in 2021, we're at 69 wineries, 1,300 acres, as you had already said. And then we're going to talk about this, 3 AVAs.
Yeah, yeah,
And so I think it's important that people understand what are AVAs, how
right,
did you get those AVAs, and then on top of it, what is a sub
right.
AVA? So let's kind of hit that.
Sure. So an AVA stands for American Viticulture Area, and it's a federally designated grape growing region. And it's pretty rigorous and difficult approval process. So I came right as the Snake River Valley AVA got approved, and that was great. You have to do a geological survey and hire people to say, why is this area different than anywhere else in the country? And it can't be like a county line or like it has to be like a river. So the Snake River Valley AVA is ancient Lake Idaho, so that boundary. And it's one of the largest AVAs in the country. It's huge. It's 8,000 square miles. I remember when I first came here, I'm like, Mom, she's like 8,000 acres. I'm like, no, 8,000 square miles. It's very hard to like visualize what that looks like. I mean, almost to Twin Falls to, Adrian, Ontario, Oregon. It's just that vast, right? And so then we have two other AVAs. So there's a total of three in Idaho. So there's the Eagle Foothills AVA. So that's within the Snake River Valley AVA. And I think that's what we're going to see. We're going to see more of these sub AVAs pop up within. Like we'll eventually have a Sunny Slope AVA. And then there's one in Lewiston, so northern Idaho, Julietta area. And they call that the banana belt, really. And that's like, I remember going up when I first started here and I had to do barrel tasting. So it's Melissa at Coulter's Creek, who's now one of like my great friends. And I'm like, this is going to be bad because like if I like don't like something, I make a face and I'm like, I'm trying to like, I'm like, oh, how am I going to do this? I want to be barrel sampling. It was awesome. And so they have around 100 acres planted up there, but that's where there's a lot of potential because they have this great climate, right?
Well, and that's where it really all started, right? Was
Yeah.
in
So it's
Lewiston
not
Valley.
surprising why
Yeah.
it's like going so
It's
well.
almost surprising that it's been taking so long. For
Yeah, I think
something
so too. Like,
that.
why isn't there more wineries? I think it's probably population. There's not a lot of people. But I don't know. Look at Walla Walla. But Walla Walla has that prestige too, right? We'll get there.
Yeah.
We'll get there.
So you had briefly mentioned it, but I just want to ask you that the winemakers, because we have this growth, would you say that they're homegrown winemakers, or you had mentioned that a lot of people have moved in? So what are we seeing in Idaho? Is it a homegrown, or are we seeing more winemakers moving into our area?
I think it's a combination. So a crazy stat for Idaho is that 25% of the winemakers are women. That there's nowhere else in the country that's like, why? And I'm like, why is that? And I think Idaho is a welcoming place. I think it's the barriers of entry are lower, meaning like economics. I think when you see another successful woman winemaker, you're like, oh, I can do that too. The camaraderie of helping each other. I think, but yeah, I mean, it's across the board. Like some people grew up here, they went away and they came back. Some people say, oh, this is a kind of a happening scene. I want to come be a part of that. Or, I was a, engineer at Micron and now I want to go into winemaking and I had a little bit of money, right? I mean, it's so different, right? And that's what I love. It's like, what's your story? I always want to know, how did you get started in this? Like,
That's what I think is interesting too, because it's not an easy process. It's not just crush grapes, ferment them, put them in a bottle, and throw them out. There's more to it than that.
yeah,
Way
I mean,
more.
it's a great industry, but you can make money a lot of other ways,
Yeah.
right? But I think it's like people do it because it's kind of glamorous, right?
Oh yeah.
And you can see people want to be around other people that are having fun,
Oh
right?
yeah.
It attracts
Yeah.
that type of personality.
Yeah. So with that growth, I mean, obviously there's branding that goes with it. And before I get you on that road of branding, and I just want people to know, Moya did not know I was going to do this, but I am going to play this video
Okay.
because it is by far my most favorite branding ad campaign that you guys did. And I want you to watch this. And then for people that are just listening on the podcast, we'll put a link to this if you ever want to go see this video.
Yeah,
So,
it's good. You should watch it.
All right, Moya, here we go.
I'm Ted Dawson. I'm a fifth-generation Idahoan, and no, I don't work in the Idaho wine industry. Contrary to popular belief, not every single Idahoan works at a vineyard or a winery.
Idaho has always been known as the world's premier wine producer, and I don't have a problem with that. I know we have amazing wine, and I know that millions of people come to Idaho from all over the world every single day to experience our wine, but I just want people to know that Idaho has more to offer than just wine. My name is Angela Pettinger, and I own a river rafting company in central Idaho.
It gets tiring. Everywhere I go, even when I travel, whether I'm in New York, Chicago, France, Iowa, Northern California, people just assume I make wine. They say things like, "Oh, you're from Idaho. You must work at a winery," or, "Oh, you're from Idaho. What's your favorite wine?" I don't have a favorite wine. I drink beer. I'm a beer guy.
Idaho has hundreds and hundreds of miles of world-class whitewater for rafting and kayaking. We have millions of acres of wilderness and backcountry, but nobody cares about that. All the tourists care about or talk about is Idaho wine this and Idaho wine that.
Yeah, this is, yeah. But we were expecting something more, more...
We were expecting wine. We certainly didn't come all the way out to Idaho to see a river. Is that a pine tree?
I mean, I get it. Pretty much all of my friends grow their own grapes, work in the wine industry, have wine tastings every Thursday. I mean, I'll be honest with you, it gets a little awkward. I feel a little out of place.
It's just so difficult for someone like me who makes her living selling the Idaho outdoors. We get tons of tourists, but none of them realize that Idaho has mountains and lakes and rivers and outdoor activities. All they know is that Idaho produces world-class wine.
Truth is, I'm a potato farmer. My family's been growing potatoes in Idaho for 85 years. I know, who would have ever thought? Potatoes in Idaho? Crazy, right?
I just love that. So 9 years ago, we're the wine state, right? So that's the ad campaign. So how true is that today? Where are we at today?
Oh, I think a lot more people know that there's a wine industry in Idaho. But the thing is, too, and I see it as an opportunity. There's so many people moving here. And I'm surprised how many of them actually know that there's wine. They're embracing their state. They're like, we want local, which I didn't really expect. So I've kind of changed my tune a little bit. So I'm going more after the people that are moving here. If you I know you're sort of, but Kyle, if you, let's say you didn't like Idaho, I'm not going after you anymore. Right? Whatever, I'm moving on. I'm going to go after all these new people that are saying yes, right? And then what's interesting too is that wineries are running out of wine because they're tasting rooms. So they're selling direct to consumers, which is wonderful, right? It's kind of changed the marketing a little bit because before I'd hound restaurants. Ask for Idaho wine when you go into a restaurant. I mean, I still think you should ask for an Idaho wine. But the problem is that the wineries are not having enough wine to supply the restaurants. I just met with Anthony's yesterday about, wineries are they don't have enough wine for us. I'm okay, well, what can I do about that, right? So we're trying to see if a couple wineries can just have, restaurant SKUs, make more of X to supply the restaurants because restaurants are running out of it, and that's annoying for them, and then they have to change their wine lists, right? But it's more profitable for a winery to sell directly to you or me out of their tasting room. So it's just kind of interesting times, right? This is a good problem to have, but it goes back to supply and demand, right? And we need more grapes, and we need bottling lines, and we need a custom crush facility, all these things that. That's why I'm still here. There's still problems to solve,
still
right?
Things.
There's still things.
How much of advertising do you do outside of the state, or is it just more of your branding image in the state?
We do a bit of advertising. So we apply for specialty crop grants. And so our operating budgets is around, $400,000 a year. And then we apply for grants. And that's what we use to we did a big campaign last year and it was around the country. We had like $80,000, but it was on Pandora and Spotify. And I don't know, I get pretty excited when I hear these, because I listen to Spotify all day and I heard the ad. I'm like, whoa, I didn't know it was happening, right? Because I kind of forgot about it because you move on, right? But yeah, a lot of social. We've definitely pulled back more on print advertising like everybody, but there's still benefits. So what we do is we'll write a grant to go on these media missions. So we'll go to New York, we'll go to San Francisco or Seattle, because I'm friendly. So how it works is you go to these markets, you meet with people, you have dinner, and essentially they become your friends. And then they want to come out and visit. And we've had so much success by doing this. I love show and tell, right? I love having people over for dinner. I love just sure, you want to, I'll ask you, if you're new, oh, Kyle, I asked you, where are you living again? Because I want to do, it's not to size up your house. It's proximity. How far away are you from me? Because can we have wine? Can I walk to your house? What neighborhood are you in? And that's what I love about Idaho. And I try to express that in our marketing too. Is I say it's all about your friends, your family, and your dog. People don't care about the car that you drive or the shoes that you wear. We're coming from Seattle. I had fancy shoes, right? I sold all my fancy shoes because I didn't want people. The thing is I probably didn't need to, because people probably wouldn't have known what they were. But I didn't want people to know that I had $500 or $600 on a pair of shoes. Now it's people's mountain bike or I guess I'm finding now, because I have children, these SUVs and these trucks are really expensive too. So I'm okay, maybe people do kind of know that, but people just don't care, right? It's not about status. And I find it's almost weird if you see something like that. You don't see, I used to love Maseratis, right? I wanted a Maserati. You don't see Maseratis in Boise, really?
You might start seeing some.
Maybe you
more.
will, but you don't really see that, right? So it's just interesting.
Yeah. Well, obviously, what you've been doing is working. And I don't think people know just the impact on the economy that wine has. So can you kind of tell us what the economic impact
so
of
we
wines
do
are?
economic impact studies around every 5 or 6 years. They're really expensive. I wish we could do it every year, right? And so we found in 2017, so we're working on another one actually for this summer, that the wine industry had a $210 million economic impact, which is pretty impressive for a relatively small industry, right? So for every dollar spent at a winery, it's $2.65 in return, meaning because you're also driving to the winery, you might be staying in a hotel, you're going to then go out to dinner. So it's all these other things that add up to this dollar amount. And it's just kind of fascinating when you think of how much of an impact it has, right? Yeah. And even more now, I'm really excited to see what is that dollar now. It's probably doubled, right? Because we're having more and more people buying more wine. And the inputs, the glass company that's coming in, the bottling line, the barrels, all of that comes into play. And so I think people need to realize, we're not going anywhere. We're expanding, right? And how do we help this, right? Look at what Destination Caldwell and Indian Creek Plaza, they've embraced the wine industry and agriculture. And it's good, right? People want to go out there, and all these wine tour companies, that's a whole other business, right? We should be driving people around, right? Yeah, it's fun. I go back to it. People are having fun.
Well, we're going to hit on a couple of that right now anyway. So there's 2 big events I think you do to promote Idaho wines. First one is Savor Idaho,
right,
which I kind of want that'll be coming up here in June.
Right.
And I want you to kind of talk about boot camps that you guys have done before. So
yeah.
Let's start with Savor, and then we can get to the boot camps.
So Savor Idaho is our big wine event that we do every year. I started in 2009 when I first got it. I'm we need to bring wine to the people. So it's in Boise at the Botanical Garden. It's always been there. It's beautiful. You pay one ticket price and then you're in, and you walk around and you sip wine, and there's a little bit of food. There's definitely, the focus has changed. Now we've because COVID changed a lot of things, right? So it's kind of changed the model. But it's last year, did you come last year?
Yes.
It rained. It had never, and it poured, but we hadn't done it for 2 years. And I can't tell you how much fun everybody had, right? And I was just, oh no. And I'm decked out in my raincoat, my rain boots. And I think people are just happy to be out. But the idea is there's around 30 wineries. You can taste a lot of different wine in one area. And tickets go on sale in March. It almost always sells out. We do 2 waves. You can have a morning session or an afternoon session, just kind of on what you want to do. You can buy wine there to take home. We have cheese boards. There's food trucks. And there's a band. It's just a good time. Yeah, right? And it's people know it's happened. It's always the second Sunday. So people kind of like go every year and they know to expect it. It's one of those things like there's so many returning people that we're trying to get new people, but the returning people buy the tickets. So it sells out, which is great. So I'm like, that's good. And so then for the boot camps, what the boot camp is, that's really focused on trade, like people who are in the industry. How do we show and tell? How do we show these restaurants or the wine buyers or the hotel front desk person, the industry? And so we do an urban, so like Garden City, Boise, and then we do it, take people out to wine country to show and tell. Like, this is what harvest looks like. This is a crusher. These are grapes growing on the vine. It's really geared towards educating people on the process and making them realize, oh, this isn't so far away, or, oh, this is how it's done, or what's an urban winery? Oh, I can do this with my friends, making it accessible to everybody.
Well, and with Savor too, what's nice is that if there's a winery like, oh, I didn't know about that winery, or I've always wanted to try that, that's their opportunity to do it.
Well, yeah, like, so look, for example, a newer winery is like Dude DeWalt, right? They're off of Highway 60, and like, oh, I had never heard of this winery. I like this. And I want to push you to that winery. Like, okay, now go to that winery and try their wine.
Yeah, well, that's good. So how do people get into wine clubs, in case they were wondering, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, so if you want to try, I think wine clubs are fun, right? Like, how you do it is like you would go to a wine. I mean, you don't even actually have to go to the winery, but like in theory, you would go to the winery. Oh, I like their wine. You would ask them, or hopefully they're telling you about it and you don't have to ask, right? And the reason why you want to do a wine club is you get invited to cool dinners. They have special tastings. You get a discount. I don't know about you, but I love a sale. I like buy wine typically by the case, because if I like it, it's just easier because my life is busy. But yeah, or you can all do it all online too. But it's like buying what you like, and you're part of like this little club, right? It's this little community, and they make you feel special. Yeah. It's kind of funny, like how you feel special, right? But dang, I do. So,
that's great.
Yeah. Do you join any wine clubs?
I have not yet.
Yeah, you need
that
to.
That will be on my list. So Lindsay and I have talked about that quite a bit.
Yeah, and it has to be convenient. Like, what do you like? I can make some recommendations for you afterwards.
Which I know you're good at.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're perfect to go to. And if anybody wants recommendations, definitely get a hold of them.
Right. People ask me all the time, like,
get a hold of the wine commission.
Yeah, like, what's your favorite wine? I'm drinking a lot of I like red blends. I love blends. Like, I don't know. And I like nice people. So if the winery is nice to me, like, it's human nature, right? To like, oh, I'll just buy that wine because they're nice to me. People should be nice.
So that leads to this, which is perfect, because you were hosting a panel for the Field to Fork event for Fair Idaho. And one of the questions came up, what wine is Idaho known for? And it was kind of interesting, but I think it's something that I'd love for you to.
So I get asked this a lot. And because when you think of Oregon, you think of Pinot Noir. When you think of Napa, you think of Cabernet. Washington, probably Merlot, right? Maybe Cab. So Idaho, we don't hang our hat on anything. And I struggle with this, because especially when traveling the country, like, should you? But the thing is, like, Oregon does amazing Pinot Gris. They have a crazy Chardonnay, but nobody knows about it because only anybody ever wants to talk, even the journalist wants to talk about Pinot Noir, and that's hindered them, right? So maybe we shouldn't be known. Like, we want to do a lot of things well, the diversity, Rhone varieties, Syrah, Viognier, right? Spanish varieties, Tempranillo. So the jury's out. Like, what are we going to hang our hat on? I don't know if we'll ever hang our hat on anything. And
well, maybe that's the exciting part about coming to Idaho.
Yeah, right. We do a lot of things well.
A lot of things.
We like accept everybody.
You got to try them all.
Right?
Yeah.
I struggle. I don't know if I have the right answer, but I'm still working on that. Ask me in 10 years.
Okay. Well, perfect. Because we're going to kind of wrap up with that. Is that what does 5-10 years look like from now?
Well, I hope, and I mean, this is like, I got to make it up, right? Doesn't mean it's going to happen. Like, I want to have 10,000 acres in the ground in 10 years. I want to have 100 wineries, and I want us to be making 1 million cases. I think, well, it depends. Like, if a big grower comes in, I mean, we could do this in a year, right? I think we'll easily be able to hit the 1 million cases, right? But that's what I see. I think we're going to need to work on land preservation. We're going to have to keep our farmland. But it's hard, right, for the growers?
Well, there's a lot of competition,
Yeah,
especially in this valley because you have developers that want land. You have house fields coming up.
Yes,
everywhere.
right. So, and there's also an excess supply of grapes in Washington that we could go get, right? So it's just how do you want to do that? But I think more and more people are going to be wanting to drink local. I think we're going to see more alternative packaging. Hopefully, we'll see less regulation, but I don't know if that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But maybe if we live in Idaho, we'll see, right? I would hope that we'll have continued support from our state. Yeah, we're having a good time. It's going to grow. It's going to grow. I think things are going to grow and things are going to change, whether we like it or not. But it's just how can we kind of steer it in a way that benefits the Idaho wine industry.
If history says anything, it's exactly what you're going to do. I mean, you've been in that trajectory the whole time. We're not seeing that our population is decreasing here in Idaho. And the more and more people that continue to move in, they might already have a background in wines. And so they're definitely going to be searching for it in Idaho. And there's no question about it that the buy local has just been an incredible movement, and more people want to do that. They want to know more about it. They want to know the story of it. I mean, even labels have gotten crazy, right?
Right?
Yeah.
And thinking differently, right? Like we're in the process of like rebranding and like, dang, I think we're going to put it on its head, right? Because I want to draw you in. People may not like it, but it's going to be conversation. That's for sure, right? Pushing the envelope. Great. They're going to think I'm crazy, right? But that's okay.
Well, we'll wrap it up here. Moya, is there anything else you want us to know about
No, drink Idaho wine.
I love it.
Drink Idaho wine. Ask for local.
Yeah, that's perfect. Thank you for joining us today. Just enjoy the conversation. Always fun. And you guys can tell Moya's just in her voice. Moya is so passionate about what she does and the excitement that's there. So it's great. So, and then we just want to thank Associated Insurance for letting us use their facility here, and look for us next time on Through the Woods. Thank you, Moya.
Thank you. Bye.